Welcome to Marvel Vision, a podcast about Marvel, the MCU, and right now, Moon Knight, episode 1.
Yes, we're back, baby!
We're back, baby! I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And yes, as
I'm also
teased-
Alex, too.
Ooh, I'm
What?
Pete.
Don't be a mirror, Pete.
Yeah.
I'm Mirror Pete.
I
that's
can't
bad.
tell the difference between my waking life and my dreams. How's that? Is that a good
What?
Stephen Grant voice?
Oh,
We're
this is
holding
Doubtfire?
I'm doing a podcast. I'm doing a podcast.
Are you the queen?
Please
I don't
stop.
know. I don't know.
You
man.
for
What is-
Janaya Doubtfire.
I mean, that's basically what Oscar Isaac is doing. Now, if you haven't watched the first episode of Moon Knight on Disney Plus, please go do that because we're going to jump into spoilers, probably go wildly out of control here as we talk about this out of control, crazy first episode of Moon Knight. But before we get
Out
into
of
that,
control.
Liz out of control. That's my own alternate personality, is the radio DJ who talks like this. So before we get into it, though, I was curious. Pete and I, before we got on, were talking a little bit about Moon Knight fandom or anything like that. I feel like Pete, just based on knowing you like Punisher, you like Wolverine, you like these more extreme Marvel characters, you got to be a big Moon Knight fan, right?
I'm a Moon Knight head. I do like Moon Knight. I've read a ton of Moon Knight. It's one of those characters. It's one of those characters people can take in different directions and do different things with. Excuse me while I die real quick. Lemire did a famous run with Moon Knight that was kind of like, is he insane? Is this whole thing kind of like his dream?
Well, just to interrupt, the Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood run, which is excellent and everybody should read
Very
if you
good.
haven't read it, is kind of what they're pulling on here in typical Marvel fashion. They're going far afield, but as opposed to other runs like we don't
Warren
talk about
Ellis.
we don't talk about Warren Ellis anymore. They're certainly pulling on a lot of stuff from Warren Ellis,
Yeah.
but specifically they have called out the Lemire Smallwood stuff as inspiration partially for the series. Justin, what about you? Are you a moody
Just what about you?
moody or a nighty?
And Night Moon, Good Night Moon is what I say. No, I like Moon Knight. I liked the series that you just mentioned, both the Jeff Lemire and the Warren Ellis, though he shall not be named anymore. And a lot of people like criticize Moon Knight as like, well, it's just like Batman. It's just like Batman, but very slightly different.
That's why.
And I will say that's a fair criticism.
No, don't be that
just
guy.
wait a second, of sort of the origins of the character and back before we had these new takes of identity shifting and right.
Should we do that when you're talking as well, Pete? Would you like that?
No, I'm sorry. It's just, I didn't know you were going to have some haterade and just kind of regurgitate
not hate.
some
It's not
some
hate.
BS that people
Regurgitate.
say.
Don't say regurgitate.
No. They are two totally different characters. Okay, one of them is a billionaire who at night goes out in a all same color suit and fights crime, and the other one is Batman.
Okay, so listen. No, Moon Knight is somebody who's questionably out of his mind. Is not.
So
like,
hold on.
wait,
Now-
no, don't.
No. I am
please
going
let
to
me-
interrupt you because the
Okay,
thing
fine.
is that Justin was getting at is Moon Knight's origins do start with that. Like there's a little bit of the Egypt stuff in there, but for the most part, he is white-collared Batman. But there are a lot of writers and a lot of artists who have done a ton of work, particularly over the past decade or two, to really
Why is he
redefine him the way
Batman?
that you're
Because
talking about.
He's
Because he's a billionaire who
fights crime.
dresses up as a nightly Avenger and fights crime. Adding in the dissociative identity disorder, which they're clearly playing on a lot here in this TV series, does separate him.
Is
Also,
the whole thing.
Not having him be a billionaire.
He has a different
playboy.
fighting style. He has a different kind of like power
I'm
skill
sorry.
set. There's a completely different person underneath that mask.
You are right, it's a
not-
different person. I'd like you to point out some of the differences in their fighting styles, if you could, real quick. Moon Knight and Batman.
Moon Knight has like somewhat magical powers, can kind of like disappear, reappear, like do all sorts of things
Nope.
that he can do in some things.
Are
like
you thinking about a different character?
iterations.
I mean, to be fair, here's a big difference in
To be
terms of the
fair.
fighting style. So one of them has these sharp fighting implements that they're able to toss that are shaped like their insignia, and the other one is Batman.
This is a fun bit.
This is a fun bit.
Well, it's because it's important to establish this, because what I love about this show, and I think, Marvel has come pretty straight on with a lot of their series or movies, where it's just like, here's the hero, we're watching them do stuff. And this, because of the personality disorder and the split that Moon Knight has, we're coming at this from his perspective, which I think is such a cool choice. And we get to see him sort of
the characters' heads. You love it.
I do. Well, and we get to see, it's so smart to see him switch the jumps in this first episode, where he doesn't know what's happening, and then he wakes up in a different place because another personality, the Mark Spector personality, has taken over.
And I'm glad you talk about that, because that was hysterical when he woke up and he was like, ow! Like, that was fun. We're having fun with it.
Jaw was
Batman
broken.
isn't fun like that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have this like Hulk thing where you wake up afterwards. What did I do? How did I hurt these people? It's a different thing.
It's
but
like
I think
your
the
favorite
understanding,
movie, The Hangover 2.
That's right. This is what this
Completely
is modeled
different.
on.
Yeah, what did we do last night, right, Pete?
I think what the understanding that Alex and I are just dragging you, kicking and screaming toward, is that this character was created to be a Batman clone, and then writers later changed it to this much more interesting take that now this Marvel TV series has adopted and is making what I think is going to be maybe their best show.
Wow, that is pretty bold based on the first episode. I was going to get into overall what we thought. Obviously, Justin, you seem real positive about this. Pete, what do you think? Were you upset that he wasn't more like Batman?
First off, I'm feeling a little off kilter, because I thought Justin was going to be coming for me, and he was starting off with the haterade, and then hits me with this is the best show ever, and now I'm kind of dazed and confused, like, oh man, you're actually on my side the whole time.
You started with the
I'm here,
haterade,
Justin.
and he went over to the later Gators aid.
Yeah.
Gators?
What does he say? Later Gators?
Later Gators!
Later Gators!
Yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah, his mom voice is adorable. And I can see why they keep defaulting to that guy, because you got to call your mom and you got to leave a voicemail.
Well, so just to get back to what Justin was saying for a second and talk about the overall plot, I do think the smartest choice they make here, which seemed real annoying in the trailers, and even when it was starting off, I was like, boy, this voice is weird that Oscar Isaac is doing here, giving us the side... The way we know him from the comic books, and presumably based on the first episode, Mark Spector is the main personality. We don't know that's true by
Quote
any means,
unquote.
but that's certainly what it seems like, versus Stephen Grant. Having the character, Stephen Grant, who is guileless, who is thrown into these situations that he doesn't understand, exactly like you're saying, Justin, gives us a really nice window as the audience into this world that feels organic, particularly when it gets to Ethan Hawke's character, Harrow, who is essentially feeding him the information that also we need to know because he doesn't know it. So overall, I think they turned something that was a very strange choice to begin with into a very smart choice by the end of the episode.
Wow, everybody loves it. This is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed, because I like that you guys would just shit on him and call him Batman the whole time. I'm just pleasantly surprised that we're on board with what's happening.
No, I mean, listen, this takes some great stuff and mixes it together into something that feels fresh. Just to pitch it out at you, do a little bit of a pitch line. What this struck me as is it's like The Mummy meets Bourne Identity with like a dash of Legion sprinkled into it.
Nice. I like it. The Mummy is sort of an easy comparison to make, because there's
they kept comparing
mummies in it.
They kept comparing it to Indiana Jones, which I feel like is not exactly right. Like Mummy is closer. Also, in terms of the humor that they use throughout the thing.
That's what I'm saying. There's humor. There's a little bit of like, what about Bob in there, where he's just kind of this guy got a duct tape to the steering wheel and just point him down the road, like.
Yeah. It was, what I was sort of getting was
ladybugs. It's a little bit of ladybugs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Doubtfire, which is what I thought you were making the reference to earlier, meets an omelet that I had for breakfast. Now, I think just because something has mummies in museums in it doesn't mean it's like that. I actually think tonally the comedy is a bit like Indiana Jones.
I think totally the Mummy is a lot like Indiana Jones.
Oh my God.
Are we talking about the same thing?
Maybe. I will say in one of those movies, there are characters who are investigating tombs and going through old treasures, and they end up at some weird, maybe supernatural things that ultimately end up being supernatural. And the other one is Batman.
I like this joke construction you've landed on here. But I will say, Alex, you've done it the magic rule of threes.
Yeah, so
I'm done now.
set it down.
I'm done.
Walk
man.
away. Walk
I'm
away.
out.
You did good. Walk away. He won't be able to. He's not gonna walk away. I know it.
Of course not.
I wish he would, though. It'd be baller if he did.
But is this the same museum from Eternals?
No, it's not. So there's a couple of weird things here. The first weird thing is that, yes, Kit Harington's character, Dane Whitman, works at a museum in Eternals, but that's across town. I actually, when I saw the trailer for Moon Knight, one of the nerdiest things I'd ever done was mapped it out, and I was like, no, those are two different places. They're not next door to each other. We're not going to see Dane Whitman like looking through the window at Moon Knight or
so
anything
cool.
like that. Just not going to happen.
Surely there's some inter-museum hang sessions.
Yeah, you think like the people who teach and curate at one museum hang out with the gift shop workers at another museum?
Well, he can talk shop a little bit. He's
Talk
like
shop,
Mummy.
gift shop.
Exactly. That's what I mean when I'm saying talking shop.
Yeah.
Gift shop.
No,
What kind of keychains you got over there?
Hey, what are you charging for waters over there?
£5.
£5. The thing that I was going to say is a little weird is apparently they made the decision, at least partially, because they felt like there were too many heroes in New York, which is a perennial problem with the Marvel Universe in general and the comics as well. But here it's strange because they just set a movie in London with Eternals, and they also had Thor: The Dark World in London. There was Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Far From Home was also in London, and they destroyed London. So it's sort of like they're like, well, we can't do it in New York. Let's do it in the other city that we do everything in. But it is what it is.
But I mean, we don't know. They might end up back in New York. Moon Knight's home, which is very different from Batman, because we have this. We are revealed that Mark has an American accent. There's a nice little moment there in the episode.
So overall, let's broadly talk about the plot of the episode just to lay it in for folks. So we do meet Stephen Grant, who works in the gift shop at this museum. Is a pretty unassuming life. He's a vegan. He just kind of hangs out and bumbles through everything. His best friend is a guy who is one of those gold statues who hangs out in the park. And he starts to realize that things are a little weird in terms of he asked a girl out on a date, but he doesn't know how. We also discover that he ties himself into his bed at night and puts sand around it, which is definitely not a normal thing to do.
Well, you got to...
He's pretty chill about it.
You know, sometimes it's hard to get sleep. You know what I mean? If you put a bunch of sand around your bed, you float right away.
Yeah. That's how you get sand, lure in a Sandman.
Mm-hmm. And
Sandman loves sand.
It's like a tooth fairy.
Mm-hmm.
For sleep.
Yeah, for sleep. They steal your sand.
Yeah. They give you sleep.
He has a incident that he initially thinks is a dream where he wakes up in the middle of a firefight, meets a guy named Arthur Harrow who seems to lead some sort of cult that prays to some sort of deity that judges people on whether they will ever do any evil or not in their lives. And if they will ever do evil or ever have done evil, they immediately die. So he's set up immediately as the antagonist. There's also a MacGuffin here, which is a scarab that Harrow is trying to track down that Stephen Grant has. And by the end of the episode, he is being attacked by a jackal monster in the museum. And Mark Spector reveals himself, says, let me take over. They activate his suit, which we should probably talk about that bit in a moment. And he beats up the jackal, and we get the full reveal of the Moon Knight suit. And that's where the episode ends. Pete, you raised your hand. What's going on?
There was, it was just so fast and furious. I thought, we would stop and talk about some things, but then I realized, I'll wait till the end there. But, first off, let's talk about the MacGuffin use that you threw out there. Like, it can't just be a scarab. You know what I mean? It can't just be, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be some kind of, like, bigger thing. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just want a scarab.
That's literally
what a MacGuffin is.
That is the definition of a MacGuffin.
All right, fine.
Or is it McMuffin?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about an Egg McMuffin. I apologize.
Why you gotta make it a scare when it could just be a McMuffin?
Exactly.
Tired of being fooled by these McMuffins.
Yeah, I keep going into McDonald's and being like, hey, let me get one of them scarab meals.
Yeah, I grab the clerk and I say, "Where's the scarab? Give me the scarab!" But they're terrified of me.
Yeah. What was your second question, Pete?
I feel like I should.
The moon is the one that comes out at night. That's
Oh,
moon.
right.
It's easy to remember that.
There was a lot of stuff that I really liked in here. I thought Harrow is a really interesting villain. Of course he is, because Ethan Hawke is great, but setting
I see Ethan Hawke walking around New York in that same outfit, same hair, every day. Nothing different there. Ethan Hawke being himself.
Does he walk on broken glass? Like the song?
Well, that wasn't Steve. That wasn't Steve doing that, though, right?
No, that was Harrow.
That was
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, I love that as an opening. We get. I think that was.
That
Bob
was
Dylan
seriously.
song.
That was him walking on the glass.
Yeah, walking on broken glass. Well, we have practice later, so we just try to
just warming up for a cappella rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that's who it was.
Who sings the high parts, Pete?
Not me.
We can do it again. Ready?
Nope.
Walking on broken glass.
That was better. That was good.
You know, when Steve walked into the gift shop and started immediately talking to a kid about some creepy facts, I thought for sure, like, it wasn't going to be like, hey, Steve, get to work. I thought it was going to be like, hey, Steve, remember, you're not around, like, get away from kids. You scare them.
Yeah, no, I guess normally people don't say that to each other. I did want to mention the thing about, just to get back to that opening scene, since you were starting to talk about it, Justin, a little bit. It is a very weird way of starting the episode, and we kind of have two, not musical montages, but two montages set to specific pieces of music
also
that happened
set
right at the
the
beginning.
Marvel flip. That was real.
Yes, we
real
also
nice.
had the Marvel flip. So it was a lot of wind up at the beginning there that definitely made me feel like, all right, what are we getting into? When are we going to get to the episode? But then when we did get into it and did get rolling, I was super into it. But the Harrow thing as a setup for later on.
Wait, are you saying that when you start your day, you don't drink a glass and then immediately break it?
Well, I put it in my shoes whole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Wants to be taller.
I love that detail, and I love that we discover that guy later on, and he is just walking around with his cane, glass and shoes, presumably. It's a fascinating, weird setup for a character, I think.
Well, and what I like about it, I feel like they put that scene there to be, because that was very much a superhero movie, TV show scene, I thought. Because when we get into the Oscar Isaac stuff, it's like, what is this show? But we have that sort of lingering in the air as a cold open. I thought was very cool. And then we get into like super mild mannered shit, like Oscar Isaac, fresh off Scenes from a Marriage, is here in playing Moon Knight. He's like Peter Parker if he didn't get bit by a radioactive spider.
Now, this is actually the
chill.
second superhero movie, though, where Oscar Isaac has played a part that is related back to Egypt in some way. Do you think he is better in this, or was better in X-Men Apocalypse?
Great question.
Thank you. As Apocalypse, he played Apocalypse.
It's never X-Men Apocalypse is never the answer to the question.
Oh, but what about the part where he is interested in learning from a TV and he touches the TV and he says, learning?
A lot of local schools in the area show that movie as like a real deep dive into Egyptian culture.
Oh.
And also, like maybe that is the way he learns. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't make fun of somebody for trying to learn.
You're right. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah.
I hope he does the same thing in here. That would be like a fun Easter egg, a fun callback now that Fox is owned by Disney. I bet they'll do it.
Yeah, maybe Moon Knight is Apocalypse. What a great reveal that would be.
A question I had for you guys: if like we were all hanging out and then like suddenly a creepy kind of person walked by, and then one of us turned and had like a creepy tattoo and just been like a fake being a person, and it was a part of a cult. Like, how mad would you be? Because I feel like when the security guard did that, and then Like everybody was kind of, I felt like there should have been a little bit of like, oh, not you. Come on. Like we were friends. Like we went to lunch that one time. I can't believe you're secretly in this cult against me.
Well, I think his big friend guard is the guard who is not Dax Shepard, but looks exactly like Dax Shepard, and it was weirding me out the entire time. So I was glad he didn't show up with that tattoo. The other one, it's fine. There were so many details that I really liked in Oscar Isaac's performance, and like we talked about the humor before, but I think there's little things, the way how sniveling he played Stephen Grant, like when he's ordering the steak, it's sad.
Yeah,
you know?
But I like it though because it's such a fun contrast, and like the action sequence when he's driving he wakes up in the Harrow village or wherever that is, and jumps into. I love that despite the fact he runs a sort of evil judgment cult, they still have cupcakes delivered on a perhaps daily basis.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, cupcakes, regardless of if you're in an evil cult or not in an evil cult, you're still going to get cupcakes. You know?
I there was a moment there where I thought your whole point was going to be cupcakes.
I mean,
the defense rests.
What more could you say? I don't know what's going on with that village. I did like the look of it. It felt very weird and interesting. And I also, there were a couple of great shots here, just the way that they were. Yeah. The way that they moved more than anything. Pete mentioned this before, but when he wakes up, when he sort of like falls into what he initially thinks is the dream, but when he throws the Rubik's Cube up, it comes back down and immediately cuts to him falling on the ground, and the camera bumps a little bit, which I thought was neat. And then when he looks out at the mountain village, it's behind him, but the camera turns in his perspective back and forth very quickly, which again was just a very neat shot. And you were mentioning the whole car chase. I think it was the same thing, the way that it kept switching angles almost every time when it switched back and forth between the different perspectives was really cool.
Yeah, it's disorienting. It makes you feel more like Steven in the moment. Like it was, I thought it was really well done. And I love that we are withheld the action in all these scenes early on that I feel like is something that someone along the chain is probably like, should we maybe see some action here? And they're like, no, this is the whole point. And then we reveal Moon Knight at the very end. So cool. It just shows a lot of confidence, which I think is the big thing that this show has a lot of. And it's a great start.
Well, to that point, when they do have action moments, it's so big and shocking. Like at the end of that car chase scene, when I don't even know what you call it, but the log truck that he knocks over, when the logs finally come down and knock the bad guys out of the way, it's stunning and shocking, and you didn't see it coming. But just in terms of the geography of the scene, the way they set it up, going down that winding road, you could have figured it out, but you wouldn't have seen it coming. So it's neat. Let's talk about Khonshu. Just jump over there, just because yelling at Steven the entire time is alarming and terrifying and kind of funny at the same time. Really love.
Well, I love it because he's like Big Brother, and he's like, "Hey, no, not you. Bring the other one." Like
that's why I like
fun.
how frustrated he is. Like the part where he's like, like he's not, maybe not supposed to be saying stuff or whatever. They just can't take it anymore. Like, did he just throw the gun? He just threw the gun. Yeah, just like it's really. It's fun. It is. It's an interesting choice. It's a positive choice instead of it having it be like immediately this horrible thing that is, kind of controlling him. The fact that it's like almost relating to us a little bit.
There's been a lot of backlash, I think, against Marvel humor lately, probably for the past decade, honestly. But it's felt like a lot more recently where people point out, and we've certainly talked about it here on the podcast, the idea of the like, whoa, did that just happen type joke. And I guess I was hyper aware going into this because I was curious to see whether they're going to go for it. And I think they didn't. Like the humor is actually much more off kilter. Another shot that was great is when he's driving along in that sequence and the lady drives by him and is just giving the finger and like this crazed look on her face. Again, very funny, but just a weird, alarming, off-putting moment at the same time that gives it a different flavor than other shows.
I'm upset that you talked about the that lady first.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Pete,
I'll pretend.
Pete's
We
pick.
can pretend I didn't say it.
That was on one of my
Cut it
things
out.
to talk about.
Pete, is there anything from the episode here? We'll edit that out. Pete, is there anything from the episode you really liked?
I tell you what, like even the weird stuff was enjoyable. Like the fact of like he freaks out his fish, with the whole two fins thing. This thing of like, what happened to that fish? You know what I mean? Because unfortunately some fish die, and it's that old parenting thing of like get the new fish, see if the kid notices or not. Like, did one of his personalities have to do that to him?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, when I used to go to the St. Lawrence County Fair and win a goldfish every summer, and it died a week later, that's how I learned that the life is an unending series of shock and disappointment.
I'm
Pete,
sorry, man.
Were there any other moments before I jump ahead of you from the episode that you wanted to call out in particular?
Now that I'm put on the spot here,
I really loved when that old lady gave him the middle finger right in that car chase. That was really fun. Remember, we're cutting the earlier one out. Okay, we can cut it out when I just said it. Okay. Pete, is there any moment that you really liked that you wanted to highlight?
Before Pete goes, I just want to mention there was the lady who gave the finger as she was driving.
Oh, wait, when was that?
During the car chase.
Car chase, that's right. Oh, that's so funny you mentioned
Oh, my God, that was when Pete was going to... Okay, we'll get that out.
I did like when they cut and he was driving backwards, and it was kind of like, oh, my God.
I thought for sure you were going to say, I really liked when that old lady gave her the finger.
Can I mention one thing that I didn't love? It's not a deal breaker for me by any means.
Phone, the Razor flip phone. You're like, what?
Where did that come from? Oh my God, I had one of those back in the day.
I was like, where did he get that? I mean, how did he get that?
Antique. He's a hero.
Oh, it's a classic.
I love my flip.
Every time I see
somebody
Egypt.
with that, yeah, Egypt.
They had those in Egypt.
They were buried with them.
Yeah,
Smart.
exactly.
Smart.
That's why they
were
aren't around
durable
anymore. Everybody was buried with their.
You could throw them through a wall. Those razors.
I'm gonna be buried with my phone, full charge. It'll lay it on a charging pad so it can keep going in case I wake up.
You could put the electrodes in you like a potato clock.
Oh, I could just fuel my corpse. My decomposing corpse can keep my phone charged.
Yep,
the dream.
The one thing that kind of bugged me a little bit. Pete's going to flip out at me here.
Oh, boy.
As much as I love the last shot, the reveal of Moon Knight, I thought it was very cool. Maybe I'm wrong about this. The cape was weird. The cape was CGI, and there was something about it that just
easy.
like...
Take it easy with that tone.
Let me do you one better.
Made me furious beyond belief. Is that...
Yeah.
You wanted a real cape?
Yeah.
Wow, yes. Because I agree with you, Alex. I don't like the costume. I feel like
whoa,
it's
back
too.
Up. Come on,
we're gonna get full white suit. I think at some point in this season, but I
you
feel
mean like when he was wearing an actual white suit and not the costume?
Yeah. They've already revealed the look of this. We don't know how it's going to show up, but there's going to be the Mr. Knight suit from the Warren Ellis run, I believe.
But I feel like this suit is a little too fakey fake. Too CG, like you're saying, and I wish it was more like tactile.
I think that's the thing, is that they actually went too tactile with the look of it. Like they tried to make it look like mummy wrapping, so you get those shadows and everything on it. And
sorry, they tried to make it look a little bit like Ancient Egypt, like that kind of style a little bit.
I just wish they did it and had it as was real and not something that they did in post.
Yes. I agree. There's something fakey about it. You like it, Pete, you're saying.
Well, I say we saw it for 5 seconds, so like
it's enough for me. I'm a fashionista.
I mean, I don't know if it like came out of him or how it was like all of a sudden just mummified him a little bit, or if it came from the scarab or however it worked. But like, I thought it was great that we finally got to see it in action. And,
it's also a little weird to me, though, and this is something I'm going to have to get over for the series, that Moon Knight has powers. Because he doesn't really have powers. He's just like a guy who kicks people's asses, and that's pretty much it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, sometimes he is granted powers. Sometimes he is kind of like powered up, right?
That's only only in recent comic book runs has he had any sort of like mystical stuff.
No, it doesn't count if it was recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only been a recent thing. I think like Jason Aaron's Avengers run did it a little bit. I don't really think that I've seen it anywhere else. Again, this is something that I will totally get over because it's the MCU ways of doing things.
There's been
And
stuff
ultimately,
where he's been powered up.
maybe yes. I have not read absolutely everything Moon Knight, but anyway, that threw me a little bit at the end, but I still thought it was a well shot. It was exciting, and like you were saying, Justin, it was the right place to put it in the episode to withhold that until there, and then give us that release of like, oh yeah, we're watching Moon Knight, not the Stephen Grant show. So that's good stuff. Other moments from the episode that you want to call out in particular that you thought were cool or terrible or whatever.
The thing with that statue is he didn't talk. He held. He could have easily given us, when you talked about the Marvel sense of humor, he could have given us the like, it's a living moment from the Flintstones with like an eye roll or something. He held. He's a good fucking statue.
Yeah.
Tip him.
Yes. There's also something in that scene where Stephen Grant's eating a sandwich and he throws out half the sandwich or something like that.
I think that happens a lot in movies and TV, and I agree with
weird.
you. Doesn't make it. I've never thrown away a sandwich. You know what you're getting with a sandwich. It's one half and then another half.
Right. Very strange.
I did feel very seen when it was like, the guy was like, wait, it's Sunday? No!
Because you hate Sunday.
Well, it's that thing when you think maybe you're like, wait a second, is it? And then you find out it's Sunday. And you're like you had more weekend than you, but nope.
You're like an early Garfield.
Yeah, exactly.
I had like half a joke there, but I wasn't. I'll come up with it later. It's
half
okay
a joke is enough for in the podcast,
and it's okay for me to just say I had half a joke, and you guys get it.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, here, let's take it back. Edit that part out. Okay, Alex. Did you have anything about early Garfield you wanted to mention?
Oh, you mean the Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, this is why it's half a joke, is I don't know his filmography enough, so I couldn't do like a younger role than that.
Oh, man,
Social Network.
But the part where the old lady flexed him off in the truck, that was great.
There we go. Before we wrap up here, let's go to our vision board and talk about what we want to see happen in the second episode of Moon Knight. Justin, why don't you go first? What is on your vision board?
More of the same. I feel like there's a temptation, especially in Marvel shows, to have some sort of redefining moment halfway through a series. And I think keep this pace, keep this style, the point of view, and let's keep jumping perspectives in that way. And we'll just get more of Mark Spector and Moon Knight as we go on. That's what I want. Keep it up.
This is, that reminded me of something that I really liked about the series that is, I think, totally different than every other Marvel series so far, is they already revealed the villain, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Like in Harrow, we've always had this like, who's the villain? Who's the power broker? Is it Wanda? What's going on? And not playing with that mystery element, but having other mystery elements is great. I hope there isn't a twist like that necessarily, where it's like, nope, Harrow's actually a good guy, and there's somebody else.
I smell that a little bit.
Oh, really? With whom?
With Harrow. He maybe is a good guy, and I think Khonshu might end up being the villain.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Well, but I think that's okay because they're still establishing, yes, they're
agreed.
there. It's not a mystery. But just to talk about the vision board of it all, yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. Like, I want it to get really dark and weird and twisty and keep piling on the personalities and everything else. I think I love that shit. I loved it in Legion. I love it in other shows like that. I'm a complete sucker for it. So the further down the rabbit hole they want to go, the better for me.
I want a whole episode just from the perspective of Gus. You know what I mean? Just like 40 minutes of it, just to really see.
The fish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fish.
So you want like a fisheye view.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's going to be the same perspective.
It's going to be a fish out of water story. I think that the thing.
Would you say you're in the
Fish
tank?
water.
You're in the tank for
In the
Gus?
tank for Gus.
Yeah. I'm jumping the shark. So the thing is, I'm hoping that like we get less of picking up calls that you don't know who Layla is. You know what I mean? Like, why are you going to pick up that phone call? You know what I mean? Like, that's just as far as I know, you don't pick up a call you don't recognize. So
but he does know Layla.
Yeah, but he doesn't know Layla. Mark knows Layla.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, man.
Come on.
Don't pick up the call if you don't. You know, you're getting Mark in trouble.
I'm gonna call Layla if I find that phone. She called like 50 times just to make sure everything's all right. Yeah. I'm not gonna call Duchamp.
I'm gonna dig you up just to get your flip phone and call Layla. That's my plan.
Permission.
No, you have to dig up the Star Tech, bro. You raise up the antenna.
We agreed that we were going to be buried together. Three separate chambers.
Oh, I forgot about 3 separate chambers because I signed up for sandwich style.
Yeah. Well, that's half of a sandwich.
Wait, dibs on the bread. Dibs on a bread piece.
I'm the salami. I know. I've always known.
You get a discount for being the salami at the
a discount on my burial.
Yes.
Now, keep in mind though, that means I can't die first. One of you breads has to go first, so I can lay down next.
I got it. Don't worry about it.
Thanks, Pete. You're the bottom bread.
Of course, he's the bottom bread.
Yeah.
Pete's always been the bottom bread.
If you'd like to support this podcast or our burial fund, patreon.com/comicbookclub. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Moon Knight. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Marvel Vision Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, stay marvelous.